Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Our president in his speech said, our security begins with you and I.
Kenyans, start spending, stop saving, stop being selfish.
16 countries out of those who borrowed relief from foreign countries are now developed. Do you want to develop or you want to regress in dormancy of poverty?
As Season 5 draws to a close, we are going to bring you the highlights of the Great Debaters Contest. I am Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar, and here is an inside look on what it takes to be a great debater. Enjoy. Kakamega. I distinctively remember a lot of humor. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't know if it's the first thing that comes to everyone else's mind. Maina, Kakamega. Did you laugh as much as I did, or was I the only one?
I really enjoyed Kakamega. I was very happy.
Till you cried.
Yeah. There was a lot
Tears of joy.
Absolutely, yes. We had fun and we enjoyed everything and the hosting plus the food.
Okay, Judge Major.
Very important. Food is for the stomach, and the stomach is for food.
Debate is for the mind.
Well put. Now, Kakamega region, there are two extremes. One, we had, let me call them serious debates. I think from Chavakali especially.
I have a dream that our industry will one day be the hallmark of Mother Earth. This dream can only be achieved by helping one another. Remember that a candle loses nothing when it lights another. When we bring foreign subcontractors to help us, you see, they actually help us in a number of ways. First of all, subcontracting leads to modern apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is simply the gaining of skill from a skilled person to an unskilled person. Now you see, if our local workers get these skills, probably the next time our government needs to do some construction work, something to build our industry, we won't have to contract foreigners.
On the flip side, I'll not call them not serious debates, but I'll call them hilarious moments.
This sex education will lead to high rate of pregnancies where they will be being taught and somebody will want to do the practical for that after being taught. So he will come up with a pregnancy, then he or she will drop out of school. There is no something to say that sex education should be taught in school.
That was brought about largely because of lack of content mastery. And some of debaters actually came with pedestrian arguments. I'm not afraid to say that some debaters even had not really read so much about the motion. Some glanced on their papers while at the podium, and some of them even got surprised because of what they were looking at.
It increases early pregnancy. It increases sex education may surpass other subjects in the same that most students will use these efforts. This subject may end up getting, for example, the students may run from other subjects going to this sex education simply because the students may be more interested in this sex education than other subjects like math and other. Thank you.
Exactly. There was that student who got shocked. The assumption of the three judges, the three of us, was that possibly someone else did the research, and then the guy was given the paper, and when he looked at the paper, he got surprised because he missed initials of
MDGS.
I'll start by that person who said about the MGDS. MDGS. It means that Millennium Development Goals. That's the meaning.
I think Nancy can add something because she remembers a lot from Kakamega region.
I think for me, first of all, the journey to Kakamega was, something that I want to talk about. Kakamega was really far, and considering we left Nairobi on a Saturday morning, we had good roads, bad roads, good roads, bad roads. I remember at some point, the car that we were in, the brakes failed, And so we were sitting there and we were thinking, okay, we're going to make news this evening. Yeah. And so at some point, Clement, who was driving, was able to steer us back on course. And when we got to the school, Kakamega High School, we just got out of the vehicle. None of us wanted to be in there. And we were so grateful that we were there. And I think that, sometimes people don't know the kind of challenges that we go through to get to those regions. And, when you get there, you're just, you're thankful that you're there and you thank God for that. In terms of the debates, I think we had a whole spectrum, some very, very good debates. Look at Chavakali.
As seen, Kenya is a developing country. Kenya has got very successful companies. A very good example is the Safaricom. Safaricom is our own company, but since they have been outsourcing foreign expertise, a good example is Bob Collymore. Is he a Kenyan? Isn't he doing some commentable work?
And what's the other school? Kakamega High School also?
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you to strongly propose to this motion that states that saving should be made compulsory for people with salaries. Why am I saying this? This will enable these people earning salaries to deal with emergencies and unexpected expenses. What are some of the unexpected emergencies? We have sicknesses. All of us know that cancer is a very expensive disease to treat. And with the mere salary of many Kenyans, sincerely speaking, if you don't save, how do you expect to treat such diseases? How do you expect to deal with a fire outbreak if you don't save? Ladies and gentlemen, I live with this. The ant thinks of summer in winter. And the ant also thinks of winter in summer. Think about that.
Some very, very exciting debates. So we had a whole range. And then, of course, some middle-of-the-road debates.
The Nyumba Kumi initiative creates unity in the country. How sweet it is to see a Hindu associating with a Christian. How sweet it is to see a Maasai associating with a Digo or even a Duruma, irrespective of their differences. It is out of this Nyumba Kumi that these people will interact, and it is through this unity that comes from the Nyumba Kumi that these people will come together and fight terrorism. It is through their unity that all these forms of insecurity will be eradicated and peace will reign in our country.
And some that, there's still a lot of room for improvement. I remember one of the pairs was Ebubole and Mahola. I hope I pronounced it right. That for me was just good comedy. It was a nice break, and I laughed most of the time. And at some point I asked Maina, who paired these schools like this? Did you decide that they have to be paired this way? Because they were more or less at the same level, slightly below average. Their coherency of argument and their mastery of language was more or less at the same level. And I think later on for me, the greatest challenge was that there is need to try and centralize, first of all, basic things like education. Because when you have a student, for example, in Form 3, across the country, they need to be able to articulate issues more or less at the same level with their counterparts across the region. And one of the things that this whole traversing various regions has made me realize is that I think there's still a lot of room for improvement for very many schools in terms of bringing them to the level where they are more or less at par. There were words that I was hearing for the very first time, and I remember writing them down because I was like, okay, I've never heard of that word before.
Just taking some foreigners, people to come and work for ourselves.
Only for me to later on realize there's no word like that, And so, but that doesn't mean that we are not expecting them this season. I'm sure that they have learned and that they're practicing. And Kakamega, here we come.
What do you think Kakamega can do better to avoid, because comedy aside, we want to laugh at people being stunned by their own research, or what we assume is their own research. But what does Kakamega have to do in general, but more specifically the regions that performed a bit below, our expectations?
To be fair, this was the first time the region was debating, and we were amazed. There was a divide, as it has been put across that we had some bright minds, especially the host school had bright minds. The only disadvantage that they had is that one of them decided not to utilize their time well. And so they lost quite some marks because of that. I think what they could do, because they were also trained just like all the other regions as well, and they had a lot of energy. We expected because the participation during the training time was commendable. And so we also had high expectations, which I should say that, half the debaters, met the expectations. The other half, of course, were quite hilarious, but, they didn't get to the levels that we expected. But what they could do is now combine, the humor with content. I think because humor is part of debate as well. We are not saying that they shouldn't put it on. But, you don't want to just display humor. And at the end of it all, we laugh, but we ask ourselves, what did you say? And so for us, content is what was lacking. And if it was added, that would be good. They also need to work, a few of them need to work on just, mastery of language and topic as well, when given in, so that at least now we can hear everything that you're saying. My colleague just said she got new words that she discovered that don't exist.
Can you remember any?
Oh yeah, protagonist. Protagonist. Okay.
Yes, there's such a word. Yeah. So what we need to do is really, if they can add content, on top of that, because for you to be hilarious means that you're very confident. You can make guys laugh. So I think just content and they will be flying.
It's interesting. In Kakamega, by the way, there was diversity of talent. Every time we had a break, we had, very good, are they called poets?
Yeah.
Very good.
Spoken word artists.
Yeah, the spoken word artists. They were very good musicians. They were very, all manner of talent coming out of Kakamega. That's one thing that I really remember from there. And what stood out for me is we had very many schools, but when we got to the venue, they were all, together, trying to help one another, praying together. We had all these small groups of schools. And for me, that spoke of teamwork. I think those are some of the things that they really need to be happy about. That at least they don't have to struggle, building a cohesive team. I think for Kakamega, the greatest thing is the content. Once you have the content, because they have everything else, they're a region to watch. Yeah.
Your spending is someone else's income.
How can we say that the members of a particular gender have refused to vote? Can you imagine in 2017 waking up and then the women or the men in Kenya say we are not going to vote? Is that logical?
Yes, it is good to give to receive. But should we give and receive? We are being sat on. We should wake up. Over-reliance on foreign aid is the key contributor to underdevelopment in Africa.
We can never use old roads to get to new destinations.
A few years of struggling hard so that you can succeed in life.
The history of the world is riddled with the blood of people betrayed by those they trusted the most.
When you save is the only way you can invest. Without saving, you cannot invest, whether you're a man or a woman. So save wisely, invest wisely, get profits wisely.
This is the GDC highlights, where you get an inside take on what the judges and the hosts have to say about the show. So, Judge Booker, Kiambu region, what did it do for you?
First of all, that day I was stuck on traffic. So by the time I got to the venue, I was already panicking because as a judge, you should never be late for the debates. And, I'm so grateful that Julie was there and she sat in for me, for the first debates. But I think the Kiambu region debates were more or less average. I didn't, get any new feeling as compared to last year. I know that we did not have Kiambu region as a region last year, but we had schools from the region participating and coming all the way to Nairobi, or some of them going to Nyeri for the debates. And so the fact that they were now put as a region, I think I was expecting a lot more from them. But at least they did not fall short of what they had done last year. So consistent, above average performance. Limuru girls stood out for me. And I remember Mary Hill. I think one of the debaters that really stood out for me was a lady called Marlene Chimoyi.
Why should I leap an akaro when my classroom is under a tree? Why should I leap an akaro when my blackboard is threatening to fall down any minute?
And I had actually even, noted that if we were to have the great debater, that this was one person that we would recommend, to participate in the great debater contest.
Well, Judge Maina, I'll give you a different question. Kiambu region, do you think the schools that had been used to meeting in Nairobi felt like they didn't have to really prepare as much since they were debating with their counterparts from the same region?
I don't think so. I think we saw an improvement in some of them. Like the Alliance girls this time around was quite a bit better. The way they came to the stage. The Muru girls still upped their game in a way. Considering the fact that some of these were new participants, so we can't just really compare them to that. But nonetheless, once the pace is set, you expect it to meet that. Of course, we had several new schools as well that came on board, and they gave their best. In terms of just the region, I think, we had a bit of low turnout, I would say that. Maybe because there was a lot of coincidence of events and the midterms and the rest of the things that came across. But I am very sure that this time round, the region will come out strong because we have quite a number of schools within the region. And we hope for the best because they also had the same training just like any other region. So we never lowered the bar at all in any region. And so we expected high performance as usual.
Okay. With such high expectations, Judge Major, in terms of the styles used during the presentations that we had in Kiambu, what's your take and what stood out for you? Maybe the school and their style?
Kiambu region wasn't that bad, although the expectation was quite high, because they have been attending the Nairobi region debate. Therefore, we expected them to at least match up with the Nairobi region schools. That said, I think Marlene has been mentioned of Mary Hill, and Marlene reminds me of Onduso, because the two have a sense of sarcasm in their presentation. Marlene is very comfortable on the stage. She's so like herself,
The greatest gift to us is Africa. It does not limit innovation potential. In fact, problems stated to us: poverty, illiteracy, economic underdevelopment. What are these? These necessitate innovation.
She makes debating natural. And one good thing about her, she thinks on her feet. It's one thing to prepare behind closed doors. And it's another thing when you stand on stage and you're confronted with a question or an issue and then you cannot respond. But Marlene is able to think on her feet. But a disappointment could be a school like, is it Loreto Limuru? I remember the days of Gene Halaku, the days of Eden Kimondo, this time round, I failed to feel, the Loreto Limuru that I knew. And that's why you talk about consistency. A debate should not just be about individuals. A debate should be about a team and an ability to impart the other generation. But I loved Alliance Boys. I think Alliance Boys did great,
Participation doesn't just mean investment. It also means employment or taxation. The mere fact that you're employed and that salary is taxed, you are participating in economic development.
Building our economy does not really mean that you must participate by everyone in Kenya having their own business. If everyone had their own business in Kenya, we would be a country heading nowhere.
I believe foreign investors are not really limiting, but promoting our local participation in economic development.
In fact, at one point, we the judges had a problem picking between Limuru girls and Alliance Boys. We had to revisit our notes and really be very sure which school we think outshone the other. And at one point, Alliance Boys and Limuru girls agreed. I think they talked to Judge Maina. They wanted a competition, the two on stage, so that we identify the winner. But the problem is the question of time and organization. That zeal was there. So Alliance Boys have actually improved. I remember the Alliance Boys of last year and the comments that we made. In fact, they were making stray arguments. For example, talking about the buildings at Langata, the buildings that have been built in Kibera, and saying that, generally stray arguments. But look at them this time round. Content mastery, awesome. The presence on stage, beautiful. And they were able to debate very well. So in as much as there were extremes, again, we shall see that there were some schools that did very well in the region.
Mario, if I was to ask you, give us a sentence that describes and summarizes Kiambu region as a whole, what would you say?
A sentence. That's a bit hard. I think okay. I don't know. That's one word, but that's just what I feel about it. But of course, there was a lot of good schools. But I feel okay. It was just okay. It didn't blow my mind, but it didn't disappoint me either. So it's just yes. Okay is my choice of words. Okay. Yeah.
I can sense a general rhetoric that it was a plateau.
Yeah.
Like the whole mood, the whole debate sort of caught the audience and with the judges. At least it just kind of standardized the whole argument, except for the breakout acts that Judge Major was talking about in Alliance. Because Alliance, actually, we've come from far. And we were talking about the argument concerning the big schools and the small schools. And we've always thought that Alliance should always, come in and sweep the show. So in this case, why would we say that it has taken so long for us to actually be proven wrong with our theory?
I think to answer your question, maybe the fact that the alliance girls and alliance boys and Mango and Loreto, Limuru and Limuru girls were now put in a region outside of the region that they have been debating in previously could have worked against them. And, because I kind of feel that whenever they have debated in Nairobi, their level of preparation has been a lot more intense, and they have debated much better than we saw in Kiambu region. And maybe, the feeling that, within the region, we don't have to work as hard and we would still, take the lead. And of course, having a lot more new entrants into the whole debate could have worked against it, so that in terms of pairing, if a school feels that they're a strong contender and they have been matched with a school that they don't think is a strong contender, then they do not execute as seriously as they would coming to Nairobi. And for me, my challenge to Kiambu region is we have very good schools there, very good debaters, and I think going forward that the regional divisions should not make them feel that they don't need to work as hard, because they need to look at themselves as competing more or less with schools from Nairobi. True. And they need to be able to keep that momentum.
And maybe something else. Victory is never obvious. It's not that it will come to you, just you have to work for it. The boys of Alliance Boys have been preparing for quite some time. When we were there during the workshops, I think they gave us a promise, and they said, watch Alliance Boys this time round. But you see, last time, they were quite disappointed. That tells you one thing, that once you break up that mentality, that the schools you're going to compete against maybe are below our standards, and therefore it's going to be a walkover, and you prepare, possibly even over-prepare, then you're going to match the standards. But when you just wake up one morning and walk to the stage, say, I am the best, I'm going to win this thing, without prior preparation, then you're going to be disappointed. So preparation is very important, and never take anything for granted. Victory is not just a surety, it must be worked for.
Okay, Judge Maina, let me ask you something. Kiambu has a concentration of some of the biggest names, in Kenya. The highest number of national schools, concentrated within such a small place, but that didn't really reflect in the results, because we're saying, okay, average was just, just their plateau. So what do you think? It's more or less the same question that Austin asked. Why do you think there was a disconnect between the level of debate expected and what we received?
I would want to compare them to the Goliaths. Just because you're big doesn't mean that you can scare the small guys down there. They can still hit you hard. But I must commend, for Alliance, if you look at the history all the years since 2012, they have always been trailing somewhere way back. But this time around, they give us the hardest time since they have been debating, in terms of choosing who was better than the other with the school that took the day. They came a long way, and we commend the boys. They were very confident and all. But speaking about big boys thinking that they can always hit the smaller ones coming up, I mean it has always been a surprise. Remember Nairobi and what happened? Papa Jericho took the day. It's just one of those schools, and it hit giants like the Kenya High and the rest. And so we always sitting down as judges, expecting extraordinary outcomes, because we never know. gone are those days when you would always say, because you always top, maybe in the academic results, that you always be the best when it comes to this type of contests. And this is an encouragement to even the small, and I don't want to call them small, even the ones that feel inferior, that it's all about you as an individual and the teamwork that you display on the stage, and that's what we look at. We don't look at the uniform that you're wearing. And of course, there's a lot of bias that people will always have, because of the academic results that have always come out, that this will always be the big giant. But you've seen, the opposite happening. So it's never scary.
Very well. Based on the points given, I'd like to highlight the fact that it's very dangerous for schools in a region to actually become complacent. Yeah, knowing that we've taken it, and that's why we should emphasize on preparedness.
Grades do not determine the rest of your existence.
We can use innovation to better the lives of our people. We can use innovation to transform and see people smiling again. For they say, new brooms sweep clean.
We are free to choose what to wear, whenever, wherever, however. This is my dress, my choice.
We're not limiting ourselves when we state that foreign countries are more superior. We should actually strive as Africa, as a group of countries, as a continent, strive to achieve our maximum potential by using them as an example.
You've had all it takes to make this show great. I am Austin Yumbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Catch us tomorrow for more highlights from all over the country.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.